10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we can get started. All right, so my daughter decides to practice her cello, of course, during my stream. She just started. I think she was waiting for me to say I'm going live. Beautiful, right? Just great. Yes. So joy joys. I'm gonna have to. Well, we'll have background music. We can think of it that way. All right. On Monday, after the lesson on Endgames, we got together and we had our tournament and we had 6 people play. Thank you to everyone who played. I greatly appreciate it. You help out every time. And now I have games to review. But before we review the games, I want to go over some of the concepts and principles that we've been working on. By the way, love this book. Love this book. Good sense of humor. Jeremy Silman. Essential Chess Endings Explained Move by Move. I do recommend it. I like it. I'm working on volume one, novice through intermediate, because I'm not a master yet. All right. So we call this the magic position. We call it the magic position because white wins no matter whose move it is. If white moves here, black can take the opposition, but since we will push this pawn without check, black has to give way. Black can't go here, here, or here. Only has one legal move. Our king moves down, and the pawn easily queens. And if it's black's move, let's go ahead and use a little triangulation just out of so I don't have to redo the whole thing. So now if it's black's move, it's even easier. Wherever black moves, he only has two choices. White flanks, and then the pawn goes all the way down. Easy breezy, very easy if it's actually black to move. But it doesn't matter whose move it is, white wins in this position. We call this one bad magic because it's just the opposite. No matter who's to move, black draws. If it's black's move, he just moves forward, pretty simple. If white tries to get in, black takes the opposition. You push, it's with check, which means now it's a stalemate because the only square white can go to protect the pawn creates stalemate. All right. So those are two very important positions to remember to know because if you can ever get this situation, you win as white. And it has to be on the 6th rank for your king, 5th rank for your pawn. Has to be. If we back this up just one square backwards, then it depends on who has the opposition, who wins or draws. If black has the opposition, he draws. If white has the opposition, he wins. But on the 6th rank, it doesn't matter who has the opposition. Remembering opposition is when you create an odd number of squares between the kings, and it can be long distance, right, for that opposition. In fact, we'll look at some other examples. So here, white wins. Shouldn't be too hard. White can win, even though black just took the opposition, because now black has the opposition, but white can throw away a move, gaining the opposition. Then, no matter where black goes, white keeps the opposition and can flank, and we can get this pawn all the way down. All right. In this one, if black is to move, we have a draw because black gets to come here, take the opposition. It's indirect, it's not straight at him, right? It's not straight, but it's still the opposition. And by going here, black draws again because white can't get his king out. And to get his king out, he might have to waste a move like that. Now I got my king out, but unfortunately, the king made it to the corner, and so it's a draw. And this would be a stalemate. Good morning, G Dot. How are you? Glad you can make it. All right. So that's another way that we have a draw. So this one's a great one to look at, and we did go over it. So this is just a quick review. G Dot, I don't remember if you were here on Monday for the lesson, so maybe you can go ahead and take the test. Hey, Chris, how's it going? And I know Chris was busy on Monday at the beginning, so I'll ask both of you guys, what's the right move? It's white to move. First of all, does white have any hopes for winning, or is all of its hopes for drawing? What do you guys think? Can white win, or can white hope to draw? What's the likely outcome if played properly? Chris is on top of it. White is hoping for a draw, and the way to do it is to push the pawn so that when the king takes, we can grab the opposition. Very good, G Dot. Excellent. And so, how do we get that draw? Anybody want to tell me again? What's the right move here, G Dot? What move do we want for the draw? How do we get the draw? So, if I ever get any problems with them telling me that I'm using copyrighted music, I'm going to laugh my head off because it's my daughter playing her cello. Ah, yes, F4. Thanks, Fork. Thank you for joining us. Yes, this is how you get to draw. But I showed this to my students just the other night. I teach a class and on Tuesday nights, and during class, of course, a lot of them thought this was the best move, right? Because then the king can't come over here. Well, couldn't come over there anyway. But the king couldn't come here to attack the pawn, they figured. And they said, hey, we draw, right? No, no. In fact, they were thinking they might even win. Yes, yes. So the correct answer is it has to be this, F4. Now, let's go a little bit further. Where does white move now, guys? Good morning, all. Where does white move now? Yes, only can move the king. That's all that's left. King to F1, very good. Where else could white move? White could move also to G2. So one of the things I like showing my kids is that in this situation, white had five choices. Five choices. Two of them work, three of them fail. And one of them that fails seems to be one that would be good, right? Oh, I'm going to move up towards the pawn. And of course that loses because now black gets the opposition. And as we just mentioned, if you're not in the magic position and you get into this situation, whoever has the opposition is in the lead, right? If black has the opposition, he wins in this situation. If white has the opposition, he draws. And so you are absolutely correct. F1 or G2 works so that when you take, we take the opposition and we gain the draw. Very good. You guys are on top of it. It's mostly review, but I don't remember you being here for Monday, so I'm thinking you guys are just super sharp. It's not just review. So black to move. What's the right move, guys? Black to move. I take it we agree that black is trying to win this game. So what's the move? Ah, is this a draw? Great question. Chris is on top of this today. Oh man, I don't know, Chris. This is awesome. Yes, this is a win, Chris. This is a win, G Dot. So again, we pushed a pawn. Again, doesn't seem like the natural move. Most of my students all say, hey, you go tack the pawn right away. But then white would do what? White would push the pawn. You would take, and guess who has the opposition? White. So white just gained a draw. So the difference is black pushes the pawn. Now, where do you want white to go? White could say, well, I'm going to protect my pawn. Or white could say, I'm going to protect my pawn, and now you can't get here to attack my pawn. But black just has to be patient, right? It doesn't matter where white goes. Now we get over here. So let's say white said, nope, I'm going to be smart and go over here to protect my pawn. Okay, we have choices. We could go here first, protect the pawn. Still, now you got to give it up. And guess what? Doesn't matter who has the opposition. We position. Black happened to also get the opposition the way I just did it. But of course, white didn't have to go there. White could have went here, and white could say, I have the opposition. But as we know, it doesn't matter because we're on the sixth rank. It's too late. It's too late. You're going to lose. Got to run away. Can't go backwards. And the game is over. Very good, guys. Awesome. You guys are on top of this like with no problem. How about this one? What's the result here? White is going this way. White is going this way. Black is going this way. What's the result, guys? I'm going to run out of water quick. Chris, Chris is totally on top of this today. He's like just yes, draw no matter who is moving. Very good. So let's say this one is white to move. Where do we go? Let's jump to the black to move. Right, black is going this way. Sorry, black is going this way. White is going this way. So we say to draw either way. I'm not going to argue with you. I know you're right, but I'm not going to argue with you. So where should black move if it's black to move? What's the move for black? Fork? Chris? G Dot? You guys are doing great, by the way. You guys are like super students. Just making my day. Which is flying through the review because you guys got this down pat. I got a king to G2. I got a king to E3. Can't go to E3. That's illegal. King can't go to E3. No E3s here. No. Oh, okay. King to E2. So G Dot, nice try, but this actually fails. This actually loses. Because now where do you go? And you're not in time to stop the king from stepping away. You can't do the same trick of trapping the king. So actually, Chris is correct. King to E2, going away from the pawn. This is the one that paradoxical for me because you move away from the pawn. But the whole idea, hey, Leonard, hola. So the whole idea is that when the king takes, you could take the opposition, and now you have that position we know already will work. So if we back up to white to move, and white goes here, where does black go? Black moves away from the pawns. Why? Because his magic square is this square. He has to be able to hit that square when the king is on this square, and the only square that gives him that opportunity is this one. So once again, from here, I love it because black has all those moves. Black has 6 options. Only one of them works. Only one of them draws. And if we go to where black moves first, black has again 5 options here, right? Because it can't go here at all. So black has 5 options and only one of them works. Only one of them works. I love the fact that black has to go here. Any other move, black is doomed. Any other move, black is doomed. So when there's only one move, I don't know why. I really, really enjoy it. All right. So we played our tournament. Oh, sorry. This is a different, you guys know these. We're going to be we're going to be doing rooks next time. So this one we played out on Monday. This is the one we played out on Monday. We had a whole tournament around this, but let's just go over well, 2 more before we go. So here, what's the outcome? White has the chances to win. Obviously, white has the only chance to win. Black is hoping for a draw. What's the outcome? White to move. What's the outcome, guys? White to move. And how do we do it? If we do it, what is it? White could win. White could win. White does win, and not with king to f4. Good try, though. White does win, but Chris, first time you got anything wrong, man. Awesome. Chris, you were just rocking, man. Just rocking, rocking, rocking. King to e5. King to e5. No, that's also wrong. That's wrong because we just take the opposition. Push the pawn. Definitely not. Never want to be the pawn ahead of the king. We put the pawn in front of the king. It's too easy to draw. Way too easy to draw. So we definitely don't want to push the pawn. So again, this is why I love endgames. We have 8 moves. I'm sorry, 8 moves. One, or the king can go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves for white to move. One of them wins. The rest draw. The rest draw, guys. I just love that. Come on, the rest draw. It is king to d5. Chris got it on the second time. Nope, not d3. King to d5. Rook to d. Yeah, if we had a rook, Leonard, this would be easy. No, it's king. I know you meant king to d5. Yes, king to d5. So what happens? We move up. Now, where does the king go? What is king can't move the pawn. So where do we go now with white? We flank. Don't care where black goes. Black goes here. We go here, and we're going to have the magic position next move. Easy breezy. Easy breezy. All right. So again, from here, one question was here because that takes the opposition, right? That was an offer that was made that, hey, we're going to grab the opposition, but no, because and we might have to play it out to make sure. But now, how you got the opposition, so actually you do win that time. I made a mistake. So we have three. Let me think it through. You'd have to go here to keep the opposition if I'm correct. But here you can no longer keep the opposition. So that was the correct way because you can't move sideways. And if you step up, black gets the opposition. So again, really, I mean, this is not what I'd call, none of these are easy puzzles, right? If you go here to take the opposition, you can go here. If he goes here to keep the opposition, you go here. You can't keep the opposition. He has to move somewhere else. And wherever he moves, you can grab the opposition or get far. Remember, if you can get here, you also have a draw with black. All right. So do we have Leonard said pawn to e5, e6, e7, e promotion? Yeah. Yes. In the end, when we get to here, we could start pushing that pawn. So yeah, the only right move is this one. Beautiful move. Only right one. We get the flank immediately, and we can start pushing the pawn. Black has to, at some point, get to here. And as long as we go to here with the pawn behind us, we're in the magic position. I think that's a beautiful setup. Beautiful setup. And where does black go if it's black to move? Where does black go? So let's make it so it's black to move. All right, it's black to move now. Where does black go? And can he make a draw, or does white just win this right away? Yes, yes. Not here, not here, not here, obviously, not here, obviously. This is the only right move for black to get a draw. I mean, again, you gotta love it. This is the only move for a draw for black. Get the opposition, even though it's distant. It's not direct, it's distant opposition. It's still opposition, which means wherever white moves, we can grab the opposition and we're good to go. And if you push the pawn in front of the king, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're already doomed because now I get the opposition and I'll never let your king get here. And as long as your king can't get there, we're in good shape. This is a draw. Awesome sauce. All right. And my favorite one of all, right? Again, you have three squares. Which one is the square you go to draw? White is trying to draw. White can draw. But how? Where does white go? It should be very reminiscent of what we just looked at. Exactly. B1, taking the distant opposition. Only one square. These three, only one square, and it's not the one that most students pick. Most students say, I got to go towards the pawn. I got to get there. And you'd lose because now you lost the opposition. And we're going to, not the magic position yet, but because we have the opposition, we win. Excellent, guys. You guys are like right on top of it. Awesome. All right. So this is the position we started our tournament in. And so let's analyze the position so you could figure out a plan. By the way, the computer says this is totally equal, or as close as I could get. So draws are logical, right? So you can have a plan, but your opponent's going to have to either not have an equally good plan or fail. So for black's position, black says, I have a knight, not a bishop. All of white's pawns, black squares. That is them. White should try to get his pawns on white squares so his bishop will have more freedom. As you see, the bishop is stymied in these two directions and only has access this way. So one plan could be to push these pawns onto white squares, light squares, so that my bishop becomes active. I can even push it right away, giving away a pawn, but then I can get my bishop trapped. And that's not anything we want to do, right? We don't want to give up our bishop. Now you could give up the bishop possibly for 3 pawns, maybe for two. So it's a debate on what would work best here. But the idea still is understandable that if I can get my pawns on white, my bishop will be better. So the bishop is not good, not because it's a bishop, because it is fairly open right now, but it's because it's a black bishop or a dark squared bishop, and all of my pawns are on light squares. All right. There is one semi-open file for white, and there is two, well, one fully open file for both, sorry, and a semi-open file for black. So where does white want his rook? He wants his rook here or here, and eventually he might want it here because we like our rooks to be behind passed pawns. But this is not a passed pawn. So don't just lump your rook behind this behind this pawn that's not a passed pawn, because it's not going to get any scope. We want our rooks to be active. So the rook on the semi-open and the rook on the fully open files makes total sense. Same thing for black. Black wants to be on this file and on this file with his rook. And where do we want the knight? Well, the knight is looking for a good outpost. And you could say, well, I like the knight there. Well, yeah, maybe if you can get this pawn here and keep that knight here, and these pawns will be stuck on black, that'd be good for you. But here's an obvious early outpost. I can get my knight here. That bishop can't attack me. The rook has to come up here to attack me. Rook can't attack from behind. So this would be a great square for the knight. Now, after I get my knight to a great square, what is black's plans? Again, trying to get maybe the rook active along the files. He's not going to be able to close up the position. Too many trades are going to happen. But again, keeping maybe this bishop inactive. And to make it inactive, if I can get my pawns on dark squares, if I can get these pawns on dark squares, look, that would take away this square from the bishop if there was a black pawn here. These squares are already taken away. So think about it. That bishop now only has these two squares to go to. And from here, you can only go here. So you could, as black, your plan could be to mount a blockade here for this pawn, put your pawns on dark squares, and then get your king and your rook to activate and be in the game. White's plan is to try to get the pawns onto light squares probably to activate the bishop, or if he could trade the bishop for the knight, that would be good. I'll get the king active and into the game and get the rook active and into the game. So let's see how we did. First game we're going to look at is actually King. I don't know if he's here right now, but King versus Toby. And Toby was 1593 at this time limit, 3 plus 5. And King is 1412 with a question mark, so they might be equal. Toby's been studying with a master somewhere, so he's been doing pretty well, but let's see how it goes. White decides to get his king into the game. Again, maybe getting his king this way into the game because we want the king to be centered. We want the king in the middle of the board. Toby says, well, I'm going to keep that pawn from pushing because now I have two pieces on it, but he's putting his pawns on white squares. Remember, we just said his pawn should be on dark squares to keep our bishop inactive. So this is not per what we're saying should be done, but let's see how it goes. So king is developing the pawn. No, we don't develop pawns. We're attacking with the pawn. These double pawns are not really a threat at this time. So it's interesting that he's going here because we're not going to push and give away a pawn. So I don't know what the threat is here. We could be, but we don't need it. We could have just moved the bishop right away. We don't need anything to shore up the bishop. And if you notice, neither is looking at, right? The pawns are still on dark and the rook is not being activated. But oh, so far, Toby did, again, not restrict the bishop. Doesn't need the pawn to hold it. Does not need the pawn to hold it. Can move that much later. So I'm not crazy about the pawn move. I just like the knight move. Should have been the first move. All right. What's the problem? Still on dark squares. Still on dark squares. Also, if you look, this pawn took away a square from the knight. This pawn took away a square from the knight. This bishop has a pawn that'll keep the knight out of there. You could trade it. That would be good for white, right? Be good for white to trade it right now because his pawn's on the wrong color. And this one has no square. So if you look at the knight has not many squares. His best thing to do is possibly to redirect to a different square. And at that time, right, if the rook is here, like it could be on the semi-open file, that'll stop that. So let's see how the game goes, though. So again, don't like it because it's same color as the bishop. Wrong color for the pawns to be on, and wrong color for white's pawns to be on. Because now, while they're not being able to be attacked by the bishop, they are giving the bishop free reign. Right? So again, places that bishop might be able to get to eventually. Hey, Flavio, how's it going? How'd you do in the Sudoku tournament? I'm hoping you did well. Hoping you had fun. All right. So, are we on the semi-open file? No, we are protecting a pawn, right? No, we want to be on the semi-open file. And check this one out. Instead of taking away the dark squares, we didn't take away dark squares, we took away light squares. So imagine if this pawn were back here and the rook were here and this happened. We could just plop our bishop here. Now this pawn is stuck. That bishop can act as a blockader right here, keeping the rook out, keeping the rook out, keeping the king out and rook out. And it's blockading this pawn. But boy, would love to have that rook here right now. But okay, all right. Oh, it's not over yet? Oh, okay, yeah, I try not to collide with Sudakus. This is the only day I do 11 o'clock. And I'd started long before I even know he was streaming. But who knows? Maybe someday I'll change and put this around 1 o'clock or something so I don't collide with him. Hey, Modern Ancient! What game are we seeing? We are seeing this is King versus Toby, and this is from Monday's tournament. Mouse slips. I hate them. That's why I tried to get used to click and click so I don't make mouse slips. Anyway, so the king finally gets activated, but the king doesn't have a lot of squares. Again, I like the bishop right here. Like the rook here. Get the bishop here. Okay, we're getting the idea of what we're looking for, right? All right, so he does take over. He fights for the file, and we're pushing pawns again. And pawns aren't going to win this game without the pieces doing the work. So we need pieces. We get a fork here if we want. That white can protect, but then we're out of position. We're way over there. Ooh, this knight can reposition to this square if he wants to. That just looks too good for black. Much better position, except free candy, guys. Free candy. Even in the end games, we have to watch out for free candy, and we did. We gave away free candy, but Black says, I'm not taking it yet. I'm going to, I don't know. Don't know what this is doing. It's not a great blockade. Don't know what it's doing. White, again, we've talked about this, right? White could just say, my bad. I made a mistake. Let me just put my rook back. But instead, we push. And this is what, guys? This is two attacking, only one protecting. We're still going to lose. But, maybe his plan is to come and attack. Fortunately, that can push, the knight can hold. This is going to get a little, there we go, just like we said. King tries to reposition to come over here to attack, which is actually a good idea. And in this case, this pawn here, keeping the king out, double pawns, but it would keep the king out, could be very interesting. But I know you guys all see the simple tactic that just became available, right? Gotta watch out for knights. Gotta watch out for knights. Gotta pay attention to your squares. Yep. Yep. Fork. I knew you saw it right away, Fork, because it's in your name. All right. Hey, gamer. Thanks for joining us. So, yes, easy fork, big problems, and the game, and we don't have to look too much more of this game, right? All right. Yep. Just problems now. All right. Let's check out another game. So that's one down. One down. We don't have to look for the final. When we get overwhelming odds, we stop. Let's see. We have Leonard is online. Let's see. Flavio didn't get to play in this tournament, and we're gonna look at your win. I know I usually look at losses, but I want to look at wins too. Um, all right. Yes, always. All right. So White says, "No, I'm going to fight for the open on the semi-open file. I'm going to hit the unprotected pawn." And Black pushes the pawn. Again, he could have immediately said, "I am taking the blockade position and do so by protecting the pawn." I really would have liked. I think that may have been better for him, but he pushes the pawn. By the way, now, and one of the reasons I think it's, let's say he does decide to do this. See, now the trap is still not really, it's not really springable, guys. Right? So Remember, we talked about the bishop being trapped, this being a poisoned pawn, but it's because the pawns hadn't moved yet. So by putting the knight here, we stop this push, we stop every chance of poisoning. So this would have been a very interesting try here. If he pushes, you just take it. If he takes it with the pawn, you still take here, and you're going to trade a pawn, but this pawn might fall. And if you can get 2 pawns for your one, that'd be good, right? So I'm thinking white missed a chance to active. And why would he do this? Again, why would he figure out that he should push this pawn? Well, it's because we already said our bishop at the beginning of the situation, when you analyzed the situation, when all the dust settled, and this was the end game you started in, you were like, my bishop has no movement, no scope. It's dead. So I want to push this pawn and free my bishop. And lo and behold, I can do that with tempo and win material. And win material, guys. Yeah, you could do things like that. We could just run back. We can go here. We can go here. Um, yeah, yeah, no worries. And so this may be a better situation because now my bishop has scope at least. And if you trade it off, then I have no problems. You still have double pawns. I have a potential pass pawn, and I'm equal. I'm feeling good in this game. I'm feeling like I can win this game, or at least definitely get a draw. All right. But again, this is the second time we've seen someone, and this is a different player, and this is Leonard playing the pawn up, which keeps it on the same color as his bishop. I don't want my pawns on dark squares. I want my bishop to have free space. So, okay, we do go for that though. Knight does come in and blockade it. Now we've lost the opportunity. We'll never be able to push that pawn to free our bishop. So he's looking, I guess Leonard didn't want to trade, right? He didn't want to trade. Understandable. And we move up. Now, again, I think he should have probably moved here because, again, the knight has no entry squares, right? The knight's going to have to reposition to get an entry square. Meantime, the king controls both of these squares from the rook. So where he went, it does allow black to come in. Dangerous situation. Black gets to come in. White leaves and says, well, I'll get a little scope over here, but guess what? We can push pawns with tempo. It's like, thank you. I'm going to get, and now we can win a bishop, right? Flat out win a bishop. So Leonard this should have been a blunder, and he's going to lose a bishop. I mean, you get to come up and attack the rook. The rook can come here, but what's better? Just stay on the open file. You just won a bishop. Just stay on the open file. And that would be a lost bishop. But black missed it. Look, Mr. Moto, this is Mr. Morto. Mr. Morto had a trapped bishop. Free candy, guys. Free candy. We can't miss the free candy. Can't miss the free candy. I can't say it enough. And we missed the free candy. We went for this one, which is going to be 1. So that's fine. And we still have free candy now. Does he take it? No. But this is good. Keeps the rook out, right? That's the nice thing about the king. The king can keep the rook out of 6, 7, and 8. All those files, all those ranks, I mean, all those rows. And look, it looks like Leonard realized, oh, wow, wow, my bishop was trapped. So black gets a pawn. Now this pawn is hanging. He says, I'm going to reposition. He takes the pawn without hesitation. We get a pin. But it's okay. It's okay. Don't have to sweat. Don't have to get scared. By the way, didn't even have to do that. Could have went that way if you wanted to. But then this one would say, ha, I'm going to win the knight. And we definitely don't want to put our rook here. Although you could, right? I mean, you could go through this because he still has no way to finish punching through. He has no way to punch through. Then you can move this one maybe, and then you can move your knight still. It's just very tedious and slow, and it feels painful. So maybe a better way is just what he did, protect this way. All right. Couldn't he have moved rook to e7? Yes, right now he does. Don't he can do it now, but he moves to rook to e7. There it was. Yep, yep. Good job. He found it. So you get the check, and we went from winning a free candy to now the king has to find a home. We know we never want to put ourselves into a discovered check, right? That would just be bad. Rook would move and kill us. So we only have one legal square that we really want to go to. We get another check, and only one square. And then the bishop says, well, I can attack two things. And now we can move this thing, right? All right. But he didn't. So again, Mr. Mortal missed that he could just say, I'm going to move out of the way. And even if you want to attack this pawn, you could say, that's okay. Now I'm protecting that pawn. And black is looking really good with a passed pawn for the future. So black was ahead a lot in this game, a lot of times. And this is what happens when we miss opportunities. So this check was unnecessary. Again, uh, probably, oh, yeah, no, it was, something was necessary. The knight discovered attack, pawn moves, discovered attack. You get the check in and you say, yep, now I can take the pawn. So again, he's not playing badly at all. Yep. So I'm not crazy. Yeah, yep, no. See, I'm wondering if white moves here, doesn't he trap the knight? I think he traps the knight, guys. Because if white moves here, black moves here, white says, give me your knight. How do you stop it? I guess you could take this one. Yeah, I guess you could take that one. That's how you have to go to stop it, I guess. That's the only way to stop it, it looks like. Yep. Yep, that's actually not bad. Very interesting. Very interesting position. All right, so we get to here, attacks that pawn, gets that pawn, and it still looks like black is doing fine. Ah, dropped a piece. Okay. So yeah, we didn't save it yet. It can't be taken, but we can't move it. And yeah. And we're gonna have troubles here too. While you could protect, it's just again not comfortable. But yeah, dropping the piece spells the game pretty much, it looks like. Yep, yep. Oh, still gets chances, still gets chances, still gets chances. And unfortunately, the king has no place to go. The king is just marching around back and forth, back and forth. And we get a resignation because it is checkmate next move, and we can't stop the checkmate. Even putting the rook down, bishop just takes. Can't stop the checkmate. Ah, it's a shame, guys. All right. Good game, though. Good game. Learned something from it, definitely. All right, so that was Leonard, and let's see. Flavio wasn't here. Sadukus is probably still running his tournament. So King, we could look at another game by King or Leonard. Let's try to find a game by King and find one that King won. But he's not here now either, though, is he? He actually won against Leonard and against Sudakus. Let's check the win against Sudakus out of curiosity. Good. This is a black. White didn't move. That's why he won. White never moved. He just, I remember that. It was the very first game, by the way, guys. And we opened up the game and it was pretty funny. Let's find out. Nobody, it looks like Toby went undefeated. Wow. Good job, Toby. Let's see. Leonard had some wins in there. Let's check another win. He had a win against King. We could go check that one. We just watched him play Mortal. Well, let's check our friend Sudakus, and let's check out his win also against King. He had a draw against Mortal. Let's check out the draw. So this was the starting position, and Sudakus didn't realize he was supposed to move. He had white in the first game that he played, and he was like, "Oh, it's a puzzle," and he started trying to figure out the puzzle in his head, and his time ran out. So we had to tell him, no, this is actually a tournament. You're supposed to play. So again, what did White do wrong, right? Let's talk about it. If you assess the position, this bishop is dead. It has very little scope because it's all of his pawns are on, every pawn is on black. If we're going to move these pawns, we want to move them to white. But we don't want to move the pawns per se yet. What we want to do is get our king to the center, maybe get our rook on the semi-open and open files and see what we can do there. But this is a bad move because it's still on dark squares. And now this is a good move because now we have locked our pawns on the dark squares, giving this bishop less scope. Attacks the pawn, nicely blockading the pawn at the same time protecting the pawn. So it's a nice thing. By the way, this also keeps the rook out from attacking. The rook could get here, but then you don't have much scope after that. Again, I would love to see here, this kind of move so that you could then do this kind of move. That would be nice. I definitely like working on the open file. And white comes out because he's probably thinking, I could get two attackers on this pawn. You only have one protector, but I can't put the bishop there because you would just take. But I'm thinking, I don't care because I can put my rook up here now to protect. So I want to do this and this still. I want to stymie that bishop. I would not have gone here preemptively. No reason to do it preemptively. I like here, here, keep this bishop locked out. All that bishop has is these two squares. I mean, come on. Why wouldn't you want to lock that bishop out of the game? So now the bishop does come here, which again, I would have already, it's just reverse order, right? This would have been the move anyway. So we end up in the same spot. And now he gets this move in. And he's saying, aha, now you can't push your pawn and chase me away. And black just says, I'm going to take, I guess. Okay. I would have moved the king up first, tried to get the king active into the game earlier, at least make it a whole move closer. But, hey, okay. And if we see, rook is blockading the pawn. And now it doesn't matter that you're on dark squares because you were able to trade off your bad bishop for that good knight. Ooh, interesting. Moving away versus maybe, and he can't push the, well, he could push the pawn with a check, and then king just comes in. But, our king also could have went this way. Not sure about where we went. Looks like he wants to reposition over to the king side. And look at this nice king walk that as long as this rook stays blocked in, black's rook protects the whole second rank. So pretty interesting. And now the rook has to say, I'm going back. I got to go back. We have moves like this now. Okay. Check. And the king has to back out and right, or king could go here, I guess. King could go here, but otherwise that pawn's going to fall if you back out. And of course, you can't take en passant. Sorry, can't take en passant because of the absolute pin. So that would have, to me, this would have been an interesting move. I would have been very curious to see how that one ended up because black would end up with a passed pawn. In fact, if you go here and here, king has to again stay and can't go there. Well, I guess he could, but we get a check and move the king even some more. Not sure it's the best. We could trade at this point if we wanted to. He would take back, and we just got to worry about this pawn queening before ours does. So probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. Could c6 work? So right here, c6, yes. Because now we're threatening the pawn, and there's really, I mean, you can't do anything about it. You can't take, you can't push. Yeah, maybe c6 is better because then you win the pawn outright. I don't see how white can stop you from winning the pawn outright. Even this doesn't help because you still can't take. Still can't take. Yeah, that's, I think c6 is better, Fork. Good call. I think c6 is better. I don't know why I was thinking this. Probably because it was kind of sexy that you can't do en passant, ha ha ha, and you get a check. But yeah, I'm thinking you're right. Just win the pawn. If he pushes, you just take with check. Can't take here. You're threatening to take next move. What does he do? He can't stop you from taking. I like it. I like it a lot. Much better. All right. So black missed an opportunity there. Let's look at this. He puts it in anyway, though, just a move later. Very interesting. So the king comes here for, I don't know why. Right, the rook's holding it. Why do I want my king? I want my king where it's keeping this king dead. Look, it keeps these squares away from the king. It can't push because I can still take here. He would have to get his rook here before I'm actually worried about anything. And then I can do that if I want. Yeah, I don't like this move. I don't like that move. But it's as if he had a plan in mind, right? He had a plan in mind. He went from here, 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 or I think here, here. But anyway, yeah, he went all the way around here, and he was like, well, doggone it, I'm going to finish my trek. I was on a journey. I want to finish my journey. But I think he didn't have to. Nice trying to get action over here, but these pawns are probably going to be able to stop them without a problem. And then we get he still finds the move to win a free pawn. Nicely done. Nicely done. And trading is a great move because now you have 3 versus 1 with the king hanging out. And we know from other studies that king is going to have trouble, can't even get in because of these two. So yeah, black should have this one pretty well wrapped up. Beautiful job of just stymieing, not taking, and creating any opportunities plus triple pawns and just pushing the pawn. Now the king can get in, but he has to go all the way like this, right? Because he can't hit any other squares. So that's going to cost him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves, and by then, we black should definitely have a queen, right? Black should be ready to queen. Now he has 2 passed pawns, and we know the rook pawn can't do it on its own because we're going to be able to stop him. Ooh, so close, so close, where white could actually still take the pawn and do damage. Let's see. I am curious. Here doesn't work. Why doesn't this work? This, I believe, fails. This would actually fail to this, and we have a stalemate. Which again, white should be extremely happy with a draw. So there's an opportunity for a draw. How's that? So how can um, if white goes here, black can go here, and if you take either one, the other pawn queens. So what white did do is come back here, which keeps the king out. Oh, this is great. This is brilliant. This is very good. Mortal played this to the T. Keep the king locked in. The king comes back up, you just come back down. And if you push here, the king still keeps the king locked in. Beautiful. Beautiful. I see why this ended in a draw. Excellent job by Mr. Mortal. Beautiful job. Stalemate. Beautiful job. Ah, that's just gorgeous. That is gorgeous. Let's go back here. I'm not crazy about this pawn push even. Don't know. I don't think we need to. I think you could just bring the king down, get the king here, then do it. You want to have these 2 connected pawns, right? So if you can make 2 connected pawns, right, here's not good because now we're not connected. And now the king can kind of guard them both, and we're in a little bit of trouble here. Here though, oh, here he was gone. This wins. This wins, guys. Right? We know this wins now. But what did he do? Oh, he moved down with the opposition. Yep. But Mortal played it I mean, that's the best he could do. I mean, if you went there, but now this one can win all by itself. I don't even need this pawn. We'll ignore that pawn, and we should try to win the game with just this. We gain the opposition. We take this flank, and we win this game. Just a regular king and pawn versus king, ignoring this pawn altogether. But yeah, Sudakus went the wrong way to begin with. He shouldn't be doing this, right? We know that he can't get out, and so this is a great example again of one move loses the game for you, another move could have won the game for you, lose as in draw because right it was a draw. But black had all the chances to win, either getting his pawns connected, then his king could have ran over here and ate all these pawns at his leisure because you can never take the backward pawn. But with separated pawns, if the king can grab them both before they can queen, black still could have said, well, I'm going to still run away. And while you eat those 2 pawns, I'll eat all these pawns, and then I'll have more passed pawns. So black should have won this game definitely, right? This should have been a definite win. I don't like this move, but it doesn't matter. It is now white's move. Black could have easily just said, I'm out, and ignored those pawns, right? Could have just ignored those pawns, guys, and went started eating these pawns and had an easy win. Hey, King, we went over one of your games. You missed it. All right, we have time for one more game. Maybe we'll be able to hit another game by King. Let's go check out King's games. He had a couple of nice wins. Did Toby play? Toby played. So you beat the top ranked guy, but I didn't see him have any losses. What am I missing here? Let me go back for a second. When I looked at Toby, he had all wins. But I look at King, we are actually doing a rare thing. I'm looking at wins because we're looking at Endgames, so it's okay. So you won against Noah, and I don't remember if we looked at the Sudaku's game. Well, let's check out Noah because we haven't seen any games by Noah yet. He's probably not here. He's just one of my students. So he's probably not here. He's probably busy with schoolwork. All right. So Noah starts off with attacking on the semi-open file. I don't have a problem with that, as we've discussed. And black protects and blockades the pawn. Good job by king. And this I really like. I already told you I really like. I want to totally stymie this bishop. I want to totally stymie that bishop. And now this makes sense because you don't want to allow your bishop to get stymied. Now this makes sense, guys. Although it's still on a dark square, but it does stop this pawn. So my bishop has at least a little bit of excuse places to go. All right, so we get the rook changed its mind and decided the open file was a better place to go and protecting the bishop. Bishop gets to move, protecting the rook. And in this situation, the question is which one is better? Again, I don't know. It depends. If white can get his pawns onto light squares, the bishop might have a lot of freedom. But in general, the knight is right now better because most of, in fact, all of white's pawns are on dark squares. So right now, the knight is a better piece. So again, um, king could have put his pieces onto dark squares to help limit this bishop, so the bishop has less room to go. But he put them on light squares. I would rather have them on dark squares as a general rule. Same thing. On a light square, rather have it on a dark square as a general rule. Definitely do not take because you don't want tripled pawns, and he would just take it pretty quickly anyway. So this is definitely better than taking. And now look, locked onto a dark square, so that just made that bishop dead on this side of the board. That bishop is not playing on this side of the board. So now if we could, again, lock down the dark side of the board over here, you could imagine that bishop would have no scope. So I'd much rather have these pawns on dark squares king. That would be the way I'd want it to be. Nice reposition, right? We're going to reposition and see if we can get a different location. And especially because kings are the second best, maybe, blockader in the world. Knights are the best because the knight from here, from this square, let's just put it back for a second, hits all of these squares, right? And can't be attacked by a rook, can't be attacked straight on. And right now the king can't get to it, and there is no rook, and the bishop can never hit it because it's on a white square. So that was a great square, just does great work, but right? But our king is trying to find a way to get in. And so the king needs to find a way to get in. And remember, again, because we didn't take away dark squares, the bishop is covering all those squares, so the king can't get there. But anyway, oops, sorry. Went a little bit further than we wanted. All right. So finally, we get this off the dark square so we can go on light squares, but also it keeps the knight from having squares. Great job by my student, Noah. Noah did a great job. King takes over the blockading position, and now the knight has to find a new way in. Again, those are taken away. You could come here, but then those are taken away. So it's going to be interesting. Bishop move, okay. Bishop could have come here, threatened the knight, and would have doubled up pawns, and maybe the king would slide over. So instead, you already have double pawns here. These pawns are stuck pretty much. Maybe a better play would be to start bringing the king over, and then to get this bishop in here and threaten to take. And if not take, it's okay. The king is still centered in the middle of the board would be better in the center of the board, but instead we used the bishop, so that's a mistake. So this bishop just became a very, very tall pawn because all it's doing is protecting a pawn. It's a tall pawn, guys. Not a good look for that bishop. Not a good look. All right, so um, king says I'm going to reposition again because now I have a new square I can go to. Excellent job. Excellent job. Also could come here and double attack this pawn and win a pawn. So a lot of good options here, and he doesn't take them. I thought here you might go here. You're not really hitting anything too bad yet, but it's a nice square that annoys your opponent a bit. Takes away all these squares, and if he pushes, then you can worry about it. Probably you can still come back. You can always come back. But anyway, so you have other ideas? Maybe coming here to attack this pawn? Maybe. Again, I don't like this on a dark square, although the bishop is kind of like stuck, not doing anything anyway. And there we have it. So now these pawns are on dark squares. These pawns are on dark squares. Our bishop has this diagonal. That's the only diagonal our bishop now has available to him. While the knight has, look at all these squares the knight can get to. The knight can get to all of these squares, and from there get to all of these squares. So the knight just became much more active, much stronger piece. But we traded off. Okay. I was just saying that I like the knight. We just need to and we could take our time, guys. We have all day to reposition our knight to hit these squares, or reposition so we can look. I mean, right? We have all day, and right now we're already hitting these two. This one attacks that pawn. This one will attack that pawn. I mean, I'm really liking this knight. I really am. So I'm not sure that we needed to trade off anything. And yeah, and now that locks it in. That does lock it in. That pawn's not going anywhere. That got locked in, and so this bishop is dead. This bishop can only play on his side. That bishop can't get anywhere in here. These pawns on dark squares, they're safe as can be. Safe as can be. And we see a little back and forth, seeing if don't know where the king's going. Looking for a draw, right? Looking for a draw. King makes inroads. That knight can't be touched. King makes inroads, and we're done. It should be done. So again, the king needed to stay here, right? I mean, that was the square. That king kept this king out. So one of the plans for black could be to get him to move, but white moved voluntarily. So then the house of cards falls apart. Now the bishop finally has a little bit of scope, but he only has 2 targets. This one can move and not be a target anymore. But yeah, free candy. Free candy makes it, just bad. Actually, had no way to save it. It absolutely, again, the bishop had no scope. The bishop had no movement, no place to go. And so that's a great ending. A great example of the knight versus the bishop. And the king just had to stay home. Bishop could go here, let's say, and then back and forth. You go to either side, and it just needed to stay home. All right, guys. I found that very instructive. You guys played some great games. Thank you so much. I begged you, and you answered, and I'll tell you again why. Because now we're looking at real games between real people, seeing how they play. We could talk about what they could have done, should have done, would have done. We learned from our mistakes. We learned from other people's play. So I'm excited. I appreciate it. All of your input and your attempts and your helps and your playing and all that. You're welcome, Chris. As always, I love this with you guys. Love teaching and love having you work with me. So yeah. No, your game was not bad. Games are good. Ken, you played pretty well. You had some really nice games in the Endgame tournament. Some really nice games. You missed this review. You can go back and check. It'll be online, this stream, and you can see we went over 1 or 2 of your games even earlier. So excellent job. I would go longer, but there's no reason to. We kind of covered everything I wanted to for the afternoon. Let's see. The Dukas is still online, still running his tournament. I could send you guys over to visit Sudakus. Sudakus. Ha! I'm getting better. I really am. Sudakus, I can pass you over to him. And yeah, let's do that. Let's rate our buddy Sudakus. No, he's a nice guy, and we like his style. We like what he does.
All right, so
all right, we'll give a raid out to him. He won't be surprised. He knows I rate him as almost as often as I can. So I will see you guys later. I'll stay in there for about 10 minutes while I clean up. And have a good day, guys.
But I need to get my guys out of the